The ashes of betrayal, 2,000 words. ####, the perfect life shattered. Elena Rivers stood at the edge of the Sterling Mansion's grand ballroom, her champagne glass trembling slightly in her hand. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead like captured stars, and the soft music of a string quartet filled the air with elegant melodies. 200 guests in designer clothes laughed and celebrated around her. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. Tonight was supposed to be the happiest night of her life. Her engagement party to Marcus Sterling, the city's most successful CEO. At 28, Elena had everything she had ever dreamed of. A thriving career as an architect at one of the top firms in the city, a beautiful apartment overlooking the harbor, and a man who she believed loved her with all his heart. Marcus was everything she thought she wanted. Tall and handsome with sharp blue eyes and dark hair that fell perfectly across his forehead. He was confident, powerful, and when he smiled at her across a room, she felt like the only woman in the world. They had met 2 years ago at a charity auction where her architecture firm was presenting a new community center design. Marcus had bought every single one of her proposed projects that night, spending over $2 million. For the woman with vision and heart, he had said, kissing her hand like a prince from a fairy tale. Their romance had been whirlwind and magical. Private helicopter rides to mountain lodges. Weekend trips to Paris and Venice. Flowers delivered to her office every Monday morning with handwritten notes that made her coworkers sigh with envy. 6 months ago, he had proposed on a yacht under the stars, slipping a 5-carat diamond ring onto her finger while fireworks exploded in the sky above them. But tonight something felt wrong. Elena noticed how Marcus kept disappearing from the party, his phone pressed to his ear, his expression tense. She noticed how her best friend Victoria kept avoiding her eyes. That beautiful face that Elena had known since college now seemed to hide secrets behind a practiced smile. Victoria wore a red dress that clung to her curves, her blonde hair swept up in an elegant twist. She looked stunning as always, but tonight there was something different. Something cold. "Darling, you look worried." Marcus's mother, Catherine Sterling, appeared beside Elena, her diamonds catching the light. "This is your engagement party. You should be glowing with happiness." Elena forced a smile. "I'm just overwhelmed. Everything is so beautiful." "Marcus spared no expense," Catherine said, but her tone was odd, almost pitying. "My son always gets what he wants. Always." Before Elena could respond, Catherine drifted away into the crowd, leaving behind a trail of expensive perfume and unspoken warnings. Elena's phone buzzed in her small clutch purse. A text from an unknown number. "Third floor study. Come alone. You need to see the truth." Her heart began to pound. Every instinct screamed at her to ignore it, to stay in this beautiful bubble where everything was perfect. But her feet were already moving, carrying her through the crowd, up the grand staircase with its gold railings, down the quiet hallway where the party sounds faded to whispers. The study door was slightly open. Light spilled out into the dark hallway. Elena pushed the door wider and stepped inside. The room was elegant and masculine, all dark wood and leather furniture. A massive desk dominated one wall, covered with papers and a laptop that glowed softly in the dim light. But Elena's attention was drawn to the wall across from her. Photographs. Dozens of them, pinned to a cork board like evidence in a crime investigation. And they were all of her. Elena walking to work. Elena having coffee with her father. Elena at her apartment window. Some of the photos were old, from years before she had even met Marcus. Her hand shook as she stepped closer. Surprised. Elena spun around. Marcus stood in the doorway, but he looked nothing like the charming man she knew. His expression was cold, calculating. The warmth she had always seen in his eyes was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like triumph. "Marcus, what is this?" Elena's voice came out as a whisper. "This," he gestured to the board, "is the end of a very long project." Behind Marcus, Victoria appeared. She wasn't crying or apologetic. She was smiling. "God, finally," Victoria said, leaning against the doorframe. "Do you know how exhausting it's been pretending to be your friend for all these years? Always listening to you talk about your dreams and your feelings. I thought I'd scream." Elena felt like she was falling, like the floor had disappeared beneath her feet. "I don't understand." Marcus walked to his desk and picked up a folder, tossing it toward Elena. Papers scattered across the floor at her feet. Financial documents, contracts, emails, all stamped with her father's company name. Rivers Construction. Your father's company, Marcus said casually, pouring himself a drink from the crystal decanter on his desk. It's bankrupt now, isn't it? Lost everything 6 months ago when those suppliers suddenly refused to work with him. When the bank called in his loans. When his biggest clients mysteriously canceled their contracts. That was you. Elena's voice broke. That was me, Marcus confirmed, taking a slow sip of whiskey. Your father destroyed my father's business 20 years ago with lies and legal tricks. My father killed himself because of it. I was 10 years old when I found him. 10 years old when I swore I would make the Rivers family pay for everything they took from me. #### the fall from grace. Elena grabbed the edge of the desk to keep from falling. Her mind raced, trying to process what she was hearing. My father would never. He's a good man. He built his business honestly. Your father is a thief, Marcus snarled, his calm mask slipping. He stole patents, he bribed officials, he ruined good people. And you? You were so easy to manipulate. So desperate to believe that someone could love you. The words hit Elena like physical blows. The past 2 years, everything between us, was a lie, Victoria finished, examining her manicured nails. Every date, every kiss, every I love you was part of the plan. Marcus needed to get close to you, to get access to your father's business information, to destroy him from the inside. And I helped. Why? Elena looked at her former best friend. This woman she had shared everything with since college. Why would you do this? Victoria's smile was cruel. Because Marcus promised me partnership in his company. Because I was tired of being poor while you had everything handed to you. Because I could. She paused, tilting her head. And honestly, because it was fun watching you believe in fairy tales. Elena's legs gave out and she sank into the leather chair behind her. The engagement was the final touch, Marcus said. I needed you completely devoted to me, completely trusting, so you wouldn't see what was happening to your father's company. I needed you to convince him to sign those contracts that transferred his assets. You did that beautifully, by the way. Very convincing when you told him how much you loved me. Tears streamed down Elena's face now, hot and bitter. She had told her father to trust Marcus. Had convinced him to sign business deals that she now understood were designed to destroy him. She had been the weapon used against her own family. Your father lost everything 6 months ago, Marcus continued, his voice almost bored now. His company, his savings, his reputation. He's living in a 1-bedroom apartment now, did you know that? Working as a night security guard to pay his debts. All because his daughter fell in love with the wrong man. Elena's chest felt tight like she couldn't breathe. I'll tell everyone. I'll expose you. Marcus laughed. Tell them what? That the city's most eligible bachelor pretended to love you? That's just a breakup, darling. And by tomorrow, everyone will know that you've been stealing money from your firm. That you've been selling company secrets to competitors. That you're unstable and untrustworthy. That's not true. Doesn't matter, Victoria said, inspecting the engagement ring on her own finger. Elena's stomach dropped when she realized it was identical to her own. We have emails from your account. We have bank records showing money transfers. We have everything we need to destroy your career and your reputation. Just like you destroyed Marcus's father. I was a child when that happened. Elena shouted. I had nothing to do with whatever my father did. But you benefited from it, Marcus said coldly. You lived in a nice house, went to expensive schools, built your perfect little life on the ruins of mine. Now you get to see how that feels. Elena stood on shaking legs, pulling the engagement ring from her finger. She threw it at Marcus, satisfaction flooding through her when it bounced off his chest. I hate you. I don't care, Marcus replied. I never did. #### rising from the ruins. 3 days later, Elena's world had completely collapsed. She lost her job when the falsified evidence was discovered. Her bank accounts were frozen pending investigation. Her apartment was taken because she couldn't make the rent. Every friend she called believed the lies that Marcus had carefully planted. Every door slammed in her face. Only her father remained, broken but still loving her despite everything. "It's not your fault," he said as they sat in his tiny apartment, eating instant noodles because it was all they could afford. His hair had gone gray in 6 months, his face lined with new wrinkles. "You couldn't have known." "I should have," Elena whispered. "I should have seen it. Love makes us blind sometimes," her father said gently. "But it also makes us strong. We'll survive this, Elena. We always do." But Elena couldn't survive. Not here. Not in this city where everywhere she looked, she saw reminders of her humiliation. Where Marcus's face smiled from magazine covers and Victoria posted photos of herself on social media wearing Elena's engagement ring. 2 weeks after the engagement party, Elena made a decision. She sold everything she owned, which wasn't much. She took what little money she had left and bought a one-way ticket to London. She left a note for her father. "I love you. I need to disappear for a while. I'll come back stronger. I promise." #### the first move. 3 years later, Elena stood in the arrivals terminal of the city's international airport, her Louis Vuitton luggage perfectly arranged around her. She wore a tailored black suit that cost more than her old apartment's monthly rent. Her dark hair, once worn long and soft, was now cut in a sharp bob. Contact lenses had changed her brown eyes to striking green. She looked like a completely different woman. Because she was. Elena Rivers no longer existed. She had been carefully erased and rebuilt over 3 brutal years in London. Years spent studying at the London School of Economics, earning an MBA with highest honors. Years spent building connections with international investors and business magnates. Years spent preparing for this moment. Now she was Elise Vaughn, mysterious international investor with a fortune made in Asian tech startups and European real estate. At least, that's what her carefully constructed background claimed. In reality, every dollar she had was borrowed from carefully selected investors who believed in her vision. Every credential was real but enhanced. Every connection was deliberately made. A black car waited for her outside. As she slid into the leather seats, she checked her phone. Everything was in place. Her company, Vaughn International, had rented the penthouse in the city's most exclusive building. Her assistant had scheduled meetings with every major business leader in the city, including Marcus Sterling. "Welcome home, Ms. Vaughn," her driver said. Elena smiled, cold and determined. "I'm not home yet, but I will be soon." That evening, she attended a charity gala at the Grand Hotel. She made her entrance precisely calculated to draw attention. The emerald green dress she wore cost $15,000 and had been designed specifically for her body. Diamond earrings that had once belonged to a European duchess sparkled at her ears. Every head turned when she walked in. Elena scanned the crowd, her heart steady despite the moment she'd been planning for 3 years. And then she saw him. Marcus Sterling stood near the bar, looking exactly as she remembered. Handsome, confident, powerful. Talking to a group of businessmen who hung on his every word. And beside him, wearing too much jewelry and in desperate smile, was Victoria. Elena waited, patient as a hunter. She let others approach her first, let the whisper spread about the mysterious new investor who had arrived in the city. She made small talk with the mayor, laughed at the right moments, pretended not to notice when Marcus's attention drifted her way. Finally, inevitably, he approached. "We haven't met," Marcus said, extending his hand with that charming smile she remembered so well. Marcus Sterling. Elena took his hand, her grip firm and professional. "Elise Vaughn. I know who you are, Mr. Sterling. Your reputation precedes you." Up close, she could see the flicker of something in his eyes. Confusion maybe. A sense of familiarity that he couldn't quite place. She had changed so much, had worked so hard to transform every detail that might give her away. But some part of him recognized something. "You look familiar," Marcus said slowly. "Have we met before?" Elena smiled, and it was the smile of a woman who held all the cards. "I don't think so. I would remember." She turned to walk away but paused, looking back over her shoulder. "Although I have been studying your company, Sterling Industries has made some interesting moves in the past few years. I'd love to discuss a potential investment opportunity. Shall we schedule a meeting?" Marcus's eyes lit up with interest. Business was business, and Elise Vaughn represented exactly the kind of international investment his company needed to expand globally. Absolutely. My assistant will contact you. Perfect, Elena said. Then she let her gaze drift to Victoria, who was staring at her with poorly concealed jealousy. Is this your wife? Not yet, Victoria said quickly, stepping forward and linking her arm through Marcus's possessively. We're engaged. Congratulations, Elena said, her voice perfectly warm and friendly. Inside satisfaction bloomed. They had taken everything from her 3 years ago. Now it was her turn. I hope you'll both be very happy together. As she walked away, Elena felt Marcus's eyes follow her across the room. The game had begun, and this time she was going to win. Part 2. The Game of Deception, 2,000 words. Playing with fire. The Sterling Industries boardroom was exactly as Elena remembered from the photographs she had studied obsessively over the past 3 years. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered stunning views of the city skyline. A massive mahogany table dominated the center of the room, surrounded by leather chairs where Marcus's executive team now sat, watching her with poorly concealed curiosity. Elena stood at the head of the table, her presentation displayed on the large screen behind her. She wore a navy blue power suit and her signature diamond earrings. Every detail of her appearance had been carefully chosen to project confidence and sophistication. As you can see from the projections, Elena said, using a laser pointer to highlight key figures, Vaughn International's investment would provide Sterling Industries with the capital needed to expand into the Asian markets. In return, we would acquire a 30% stake in your company. Marcus sat at the opposite end of the table, his fingers steepled under his chin. He had been watching her intently throughout the entire presentation, and Elena could feel the weight of his gaze. It was different from 3 years ago. No longer cold and calculating. Now there was interest, attraction even. Good. That would make everything easier. 30% is a significant amount of control to give up, Marcus said finally. What guarantees do we have that Vaughn International won't simply strip our assets and disappear? Elena smiled. What guarantees do I have that Sterling Industries is stable enough to deserve my investment? Mr. Sterling, I've done my research. Your company has had some financial difficulties in recent months. Several major clients have moved to competitors. Your stock price has dropped 15% in the last quarter. You need this deal as much as I need a solid investment opportunity. The room fell silent. No one spoke to Marcus Sterling that way. Elena watched emotions flicker across his face. Anger, surprise, and then, unexpectedly, respect. You're right, Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. We've had some challenges, which is why I'm willing to negotiate. 25% stake. And you accept a position on our board of directors, so you have direct oversight of your investment. 28%, Elena countered. And I want access to all financial records. Complete transparency. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Why do I feel like you're not just interested in profits? Because I'm not, Elena said honestly. I'm interested in building something that lasts. I invest in companies with potential, Mr. Sterling. Despite your recent troubles, Sterling Industries has excellent bones. Good people, solid infrastructure, strong market position. You just need someone to help you see what you've been missing. The double meaning in her words wasn't lost on Marcus. He stood, walked around the table until he was standing close to her. Too close for professional comfort. And what have I been missing, Ms. Vaughn? Elena met his gaze steadily, not backing down. Perspective. You've been so focused on the past that you haven't been able to see the future. For a long moment they stared at each other. Then Marcus extended his hand. 27%. And you start Monday. Elena shook his hand, feeling the familiar electricity of his touch. 3 years ago that feeling had made her weak. Now it made her strong. Deal. As the meeting ended and executives filed out, Elena gathered her materials. She was aware of Marcus lingering by the windows, watching the city below. Have dinner with me, he said suddenly. Elena paused, her heart racing despite her careful control. This was what she wanted. To get close to him again. To become indispensable. but she needed to play this carefully. I don't think that's appropriate, Mr. Sterling. We're business partners now. Marcus, he said, turning to face her. And it's just dinner. To celebrate our new partnership. What about your fiancé? Elena asked, managing to sound curious rather than bitter. A shadow crossed Marcus's face. Victoria will understand. This is business. Everything is business with you, isn't it? Elena said softly, and she saw him flinch at the words. Not everything, Marcus said. Have dinner with me, Elise. Please. That please surprised her. The Marcus Sterling she remembered never begged for anything. Elena pretended to consider, then nodded. One dinner. But we split the check. I'm not interested in being bought, Mr. Sterling. Marcus, he corrected again, smiling. And I wouldn't dream of trying to buy you. Something tells me you're priceless. #### unraveling secrets. The restaurant Marcus chose was intimate and expensive, with private booths and discreet waiters. Elena had dressed carefully in a simple black dress, elegant but not suggestive. She needed to maintain control of this situation. Tell me about yourself, Marcus said after they'd ordered. The Elise Vaughn story. How does someone so young build such an impressive empire? Elena took a sip of wine, using the moment to center herself. The story she told was carefully crafted, mixing truth with fiction. I grew up with nothing. Worked my way through school. Got lucky with some early investments in technology startups. And I learned that the key to success is understanding what people really want, not just what they say they want. And what do I really want? Marcus asked, leaning forward. Redemption, Elena said, and watched his face change. You want to prove that you're more than your father's son, that you built something real, something lasting. But you're so afraid of failing that you've become ruthless. You've forgotten that business isn't just about destroying competitors. It's about creating value. Marcus sat back, studying her with new intensity. You see a lot for someone who just arrived in this city. I make it my business to understand the people I invest in, Elena replied. Your company's problems aren't financial, Marcus. They're personal. You're making decisions based on old wounds instead of new possibilities. You sound like a therapist, Marcus said, but there was no mockery in his tone. I sound like someone who's been where you are, Elena said. Someone who's learned that revenge might feel good, but it doesn't actually heal anything. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning that Marcus couldn't fully understand. Elena saw something shift in his expression, interest deepening into something more dangerous. Connection. Over the next few weeks, Elena carefully inserted herself into every aspect of Sterling Industries. She attended board meetings and asked difficult questions. She reviewed financial records and discovered irregularities that Marcus had missed. She made suggestions that improved efficiency and profitability. And slowly, inevitably, Marcus began to rely on her. They started having breakfast meetings that turned into lunch meetings that stretched into dinner. They texted about business matters that gradually became more personal. Elena watched Marcus transform from the cold, calculating man she remembered into someone more vulnerable and real. But she couldn't forget why she was here. Couldn't let herself get distracted by the way he looked at her now, like she was the most fascinating person he'd ever met. This was about justice. About making him pay for what he'd done to her and her father. Elena's secret weapon in this war was Detective James Carter. She had met him in London, where he was investigating an international fraud case. James had been engaged to Elena's older sister Rachel, who had died in a car accident 5 years ago. When Elena revealed who she really was and what had happened to her, James had agreed to help. I found something, James said during one of their discreet meetings in a coffee shop across town. He slid a folder across the table. Marcus Sterling's company has been using offshore accounts to hide money. Tax evasion, possibly money laundering. If this goes public, he'll face criminal charges. Elena opened the folder, her hands shaking slightly. This was it. The evidence she needed to destroy him completely. But as she looked at the documents, she felt strangely hollow. 3 years ago, this moment would have filled her with triumph. Now she just felt tired. There's something else, James said carefully. Victoria Chun has been embezzling money from Sterling Industries for the past year. Small amounts, carefully hidden, but it's there. She's been preparing to disappear with enough money to start over somewhere else. So she's betraying Marcus too, Elena said softly. Looks like it, James confirmed. The question is, what are you going to do with this information? Elena closed the folder. I don't know yet. #### the tangled web. The cracks in Marcus and Victoria's relationship became more obvious as weeks passed. Elena watched from her position inside Sterling Industries as Victoria grew increasingly desperate and possessive. She showed up at the office unannounced, made scenes at business events, and constantly called Marcus during meetings. I'm sorry, Marcus said to Elena one evening after Victoria had called for the third time during their working dinner. She's been difficult lately. Why do you stay with her? Elena asked, genuinely curious. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Honestly, I don't know anymore. The reasons I got engaged to her seem less important now. She was part of a plan, and I've realized that the plan was stupid. What plan? Elena's heart raced. But Marcus shook his head. Nothing. Old business. The point is, I'm starting to see that I've wasted a lot of time on the wrong things. On the wrong people. He looked at Elena as he said it, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. This was getting dangerous. She was supposed to hate him, supposed to be focused solely on revenge. But the Marcus she was getting to know now wasn't the cruel man who had destroyed her 3 years ago. He was complicated, damaged, trying to be better. Marcus, Elena said carefully. Are you unhappy? I was, Marcus said. Until you walked into my life. The confession hung in the air between them. Elena knew she should shut this down, should maintain professional distance. But part of her, the part that remembered loving him, wanted to reach across the table and take his hand. We can't, Elena said instead. You're engaged. And we work together. I know, Marcus said. But that doesn't change how I feel. Before Elena could respond, her phone rang. Her father's number. She excused herself and stepped outside to take the call. Elena. Her father's voice sounded strained. Something's happened. The police were here asking questions about you. About Elise Vaughn. Someone's been investigating your background. Elena's blood ran cold. What kind of questions? They wanted to know if I had a daughter named Elise. If I knew anything about your business dealings. Elena, someone knows who you really are. And they're trying to expose you. #### unexpected complications. Elena's world tilted sideways. She had been so careful, had covered her tracks so meticulously. Who could have discovered her real identity? And more importantly, what did they plan to do with that information? I need to go, Elena said to Marcus when she returned to the restaurant. Family emergency. But as she gathered her things, Victoria appeared at their table. Her face was flushed, her eyes bright with too much wine and anger. How cozy, Victoria said, her voice too loud. Other diners turned to look. Working dinner? Is that what we're calling it now? Victoria, go home, Marcus said, his voice hard. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself? Victoria laughed bitterly. You've been practically living at the office with your new pet investor. Everyone sees it, Marcus. Everyone knows you're planning to leave me for her. This is a business relationship, Marcus said, but he didn't sound convincing. Victoria's gaze shifted to Elena, and for a moment, Elena saw something in her former friend's eyes. Recognition? Suspicion? There's something familiar about you, Victoria said slowly, stepping closer. Something I can't quite place. Have we met before? Elena's heart pounded. I don't think so. I would remember. No, Victoria insisted. There's something. Your voice maybe. Or the way you hold yourself. She was drunk, but not too drunk to be dangerous. Who are you really, Elise Vaughn? Victoria enough. Marcus stood, taking Victoria's arm. I'm taking you home. I don't need you to take me anywhere, Victoria snarled, jerking away from him. She turned back to Elena, swaying slightly. You think you're so smart, coming in here with your fancy suits and your business plans. But I see through you. You want something. And I'm going to find out what. She stumbled away, leaving a wake of awkward silence. Marcus looked at Elena apologetically. I'm sorry. She's not usually like this. Yes, she is, Elena said quietly. You just never noticed before. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She paced her penthouse apartment, trying to figure out who was investigating her. The most logical answer was Victoria, fueled by jealousy and desperation. But what if it was someone else? What if her carefully constructed plan was about to collapse? Her phone rang at 2 a.m. Marcus, I broke up with Victoria, he said without preamble. Tonight after I took her home. I told her we're done. Elena sat down on her couch, her legs suddenly weak. Marcus. I know this complicates everything, Marcus continued. I know we work together and this is unprofessional and possibly stupid. But I can't keep pretending. I haven't felt this way about anyone in years. Maybe ever. You don't know me, Elena whispered. You don't know who I really am. Then tell me, Marcus said. Whatever you're hiding, Elise, whatever secrets you have, I don't care. I just want to know you. The real you. Elena closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. This was the moment. She could tell him the truth, could reveal everything and watch his world explode. It was what she came here to do. But the words wouldn't come. I can't, Elena said finally. Not yet. But Marcus, if you care about me at all, you need to trust me. Things are going to get complicated very soon. And when they do, I need you to remember this conversation. Remember that some secrets are kept for protection, not deception. You're scaring me, Marcus said. Good, Elena replied. You should be scared. We both should be. The next morning, Elena arrived at her office to find an envelope on her desk. No return address, no name. Inside was a single photograph. It was Elena 3 years ago, standing in Marcus's study, tears streaming down her face as she stared at the board of photographs. Someone had been there that night. Someone had documented her humiliation and scrawled across the bottom in red ink, I know who you are. And soon everyone else will too. ## Part 3. Redemption through fire, 2,000 words. ### The truth explodes. The Sterling Industries annual gala was the social event of the season. 500 guests packed the ballroom of the Grand Hotel, the same venue where Elena had first reappeared 3 years after her disappearance. She wore a silver gown that caught the light with every movement, her green contact lenses making her eyes appear almost luminous. Elena had spent the past week since receiving that photograph preparing for this moment. She knew the truth would come out tonight. Knew that her carefully constructed revenge plot was about to reach its conclusion. But now she questioned whether revenge was truly what she wanted. Marcus appeared at her side, handsome in his tuxedo. He had been different since breaking up with Victoria. Lighter somehow. More genuine. He took Elena's hand and raised it to his lips in a gesture that was both old-fashioned and intimate. You're beautiful tonight, he said softly. You're beautiful every night. Marcus, Elena began, needing to tell him the truth before someone else did. But before she could continue, a commotion erupted near the entrance. Victoria swept into the ballroom wearing a dramatic red gown. Her blonde hair swept up in an elaborate style. She wasn't alone. Behind her walked a man Elena recognized from photographs. Adrian Sterling, Marcus's younger brother, who had been traveling abroad for the past 5 years. Marcus's face went pale. Adrian? What are you doing here? Adrian Sterling was tall like his brother but leaner, with lighter hair and softer features. He looked uncomfortable in his formal wear, like a man who preferred jeans and traveling boots to tuxedos. His eyes swept the crowd until they landed on Elena, and then they widened with recognition. Elena, Adrian said, loud enough that nearby guests turned to look. Elena Rivers? The name fell into the room like a bomb. Silence spread in waves as people processed what they'd heard. Marcus turned to look at Elena, confusion written across his face. What did you say? Marcus asked his brother. But Adrian was already walking toward Elena, his expression a mix of relief and concern. Elena, I've been trying to find you for 3 years. After what happened after you disappeared, I searched everywhere. I went to London, to Paris trying to track you down. Are you okay? Elena felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on her. The moment of truth had arrived, but not in the way she'd planned. Not in a way she controlled. "Hello, Adrian," Elena said quietly, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting inside her chest. Marcus grabbed Elena's arm, not roughly but firmly. "What is he talking about? Who is